Episode 129, Star Wars, the rumor to end the sequel trilogy. This week we'll be talking about a rumor that's been going around that says the sequel trilogy may be on its way out, thanks to some time travel shenanigans, and that Kathleen Kennedy is about to get fired from Lucasfilm. If you love Star Wars and are curious about what's to come in the future, you're going to love this one. So let's get started. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Hey, thanks for checking out the Visionary Variety Podcast. My name is Daniel. We've also got in this episode a special guest, Joe. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me back again, sir.
Yeah, I think 2 episodes ago you were on the show, right?
Mm-hmm. It seems like only yesterday.
Time flies when you're podcasting and having fun. I wanted to have you on this episode specifically because I know you love Star Wars like me, and I also know you know more than me about many topics. We'll see. We'll see about that. I mostly wanted to do this episode to address this rumor that's been bouncing around. I can't get away from it. It's kind of annoying at this point. All these articles and YouTube videos. Oh my gosh, there's so many YouTube videos talking about how the sequel trilogy is going to become uncanonized. It's going to be erased from Star Wars history, and we're finally going to get the Lucas's version of 7, 8, and 9, or we're going to get new movies that'll just overwrite all that. Rey will never happen. Kylo will never happen. Blah blah blah. And it's just getting crazy. So I figured, hey, let's address it on the podcast. Let's put the facts on the table as far as we know, and address what's a rumor and what may happen in the future, and what do we think is going to happen? Because, we'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to jump ahead.
We don't want to time jump.
So all these rumors originated with this guy with a lovely YouTube username of Doomcock. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'll just leave that there. And he's saying in this video that he's got inside intel and employees and members that work in Lucasfilm. He knows people that know people. And apparently they're feeding him little tidbits of information here and there, saying that not only is Kathleen Kennedy done for in the company, but also that we're going to be seeing some time travel tricks used to go back in time and fix or stop whatever happened with Palpatine and 7, 8, and 9 ever happening, which would, of course, lead to movies of retelling either that era or more likely an earlier era soon after Return of the Jedi, Mandalorian timeline, somewhere in that time, where, Luke is training Leia and all that jazz. So that's great news for so many Star Wars fans. And then for the rest of it, it's just a big eye roll. It's like, come on, guys. I'll say this up front. I do not think any of this is going to happen. Now, I don't know about Kathleen Kennedy, but as far as redoing and undoing and uncanonizing 7, 8, 9, I don't think any of it has any weight. I don't think it's possible or realistic at all. Joe, what's your take on this real quick?
A friend posted this to me after I'd already heard it. And I told him, honestly, at this point, I'm kind of numb to all this because there's been so much arguing about this sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it's getting old.
Yeah, that I just was like, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. I've always contested, Star Wars is one of those things you can pick and choose what you want. If you just want the original trilogy, just leave it there. If you want the original 6 movies to make the Skywalker saga back then before we added the new one, you can do that, or if you like the new ones, you can add them all.
Maybe you just like the Ewok movies and the holiday special. Maybe you need help.
I have the Ewok movies, but
you do?
Yes, but I do not have the holiday special, and I know you guys succumbed to it. So
yeah, we endured it. Yeah.
So in that, as far as Star Wars fandom, you beat me on that one. So.
Well, I don't know, but it's a thing to brag about.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're true. You're right. There's so much in Star Wars you can pick and choose. And if you don't like the sequels, don't be a toxic fanboy about it. Just don't watch them. Just ignore it.
I mean, how do you think the Terminator fans feel by now? At least
oh my gosh, the flow chart of the storyline of Terminator franchise is a spaghetti bowl.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like when every sequel is meant to try to undo the previous sequel after 2, of course. Yeah, that's why in my mind for that one, it's 1 and 2, and it's done. And after that, it's just a bunch of fan films. But
high budget fan films.
But no, man. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, it's Disney's a mega corporation. They paid a lot of money for Star Wars. They've made a lot of money on Star Wars so far, but they still would want to make more, and they wanted to make more on those last 2. With Force Awakens making $2 billion plus. And then Last Jedi making only $1 billion, which is
oh dear,
it's all from a certain point of view. Like Obi-Wan said, it's like it's all down to numbers and stuff. So, I mean, it's the main thing that I've seen with this, and I kind of agree, is that I don't know that they're going to go full on, erasing so much as maybe eventually ignoring and sweeping under the rug, because I just thought of this when you were talking in the intro. How many Disney movies are never going to come on Disney Plus because they fall in a certain category?
What do you mean? Give us an example.
Like the infamous Song of the South. We'll never.
I never heard of it.
You never. Are you being serious, or are you messing with me?
I'm serious.
You're serious.
I'm not a Disney-holic, so forgive me.
Just Song of the South has a lot of racist stuff in it. It's the one where the song comes zippity doo dah zippity. That's that song that was I think it won an Oscar and all this crazy stuff back then.
Shoot, am I racist? But, I sing that song to my daughter because her nickname is Zippy. So well,
it's it'll never come to Disney Plus, because it's one of those that it doesn't matter. You can put a warning in front of it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just it's just too far out there, and they'll never do it. Now, will they ever be that extreme with a sequel trilogy? No. But will they
too late.
Will they start just focusing on the other projects and not really promote these more than they already are? I mean, it's got its whole section on Disney Plus. It's like watch this, all the Star Wars movies here. Solo just went back, so now you truly can see them all there.
Yay.
I honestly think that that's probably the route they're going to go. But
there's probably very little hope for ever seeing any continued stories with Poe and Rey and Finn. It's just kind of like, let's move elsewhere.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I just saw that John Boyega said he's pretty much moved on from Star Wars. I know Daisy Ridley had said it.
That makes me sad.
Yeah,
I feel like when you have a mess of a franchise, which what I mean by that is 7, 8, 9 did not have any consistent planning, no overseeing story arcs that had to be met. The writers and directors did their own crazy thing, so that's a mess to me. But when you do that, not only do you upset the fans, but you also upset the actors. Like, they're burned out from all this hate and all this crazy stuff that's going on. And Mark Hamill has repeatedly spoken up and probably gotten in trouble too for things he said in the past. That wasn't his Luke and things like that. So it's like you do the actors an injustice, and they're not going to want to continue to be in your mess if it's like that. And I feel like that's what happened. What's really saddens me, because honestly, I was hoping to see maybe not call it episode 10, but some other movie where Rey is a little more mature and learned in the Force and trained with her Force Ghost Masters, and Finn is on his way up to becoming like this, general or something like that in a new Jedi Order. Like, that could be really cool, but looks like it's never going to happen. Not in the movies, at least.
Oh no, it'll never happen in the movies. But
maybe some books.
They always they always leave it open for books and comics, and heck, even video games now have tie-ins and stuff. So it's still possible, for fans of those characters. But again, like you just stated, they may not go that route. Just that may be their quote unquote erasing. Like I said, I think it's going to be more ignoring than it is erasing.
Yeah. Well, let's go back a little bit to talking about this dude who made those predictions, Doomcock. Which, by the way, if you watch the video where he's talking about these rumors, like I've been hearing about his name and all his stuff he's been saying, and I finally watched a video for myself a few days ago, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was the cheesiest, dumbest looking thing I've ever seen on YouTube. This guy's got this ridiculous, like, huge mask, and his voice is modulated to like low pitch, and he's wearing this ridiculous shirt with like a fake background, and it's like, what am I watching? This looks like some weird kid show.
Yeah. But he's got a big following.
Yeah, he's doing something right. Which is weird though. That video that I watched only had 73,000 views. I'm thinking this guy's going crazy viral. I thought he'd be up in the millions. But maybe that was a later video I was watching. I don't know. Anyway, so he has made some predictions in the past that have come true. Now, Joe, you were telling me some of his predictions regarding the sequel trilogy, or was it regarding The Last Jedi that came true?
When I started really hearing about him, it was more about the problems behind Episode 9. And how they couldn't lock down an ending, and so it was more that he was reporting all that behind the scenes stuff as it was happening, and nobody was really believing it. But then once it came out, and then some of the actors, like you said, have talked about it afterwards, just kind of confirmed some of the things that he was talking about, and I'm being very general because I don't remember all the specifics, but in essence, it was just the problems behind Episode 9. And, everybody knows.
I had heard listed on a video, or maybe I read it in an article, where one of his predictions was that, or not prediction, but one of his leaks was that, Rey was going to be a Palpatine, which is definitely a hot take before the movie was out. I did a post on a really huge Star Wars group. I think it was like 60,000 members, and one of the biggest Star Wars Facebook groups I could find. And I did this poll post where I gave like 15 or 16 different options of who Rey might be. And this was before, 9 came out, and everyone was voting. There was probably a few hundred votes. And I don't remember if someone added the feature of her being a Palpatine or not, but there's only a few votes for it. No one even considered that. It was just so outside of our like realm of possibility.
Yeah.
There was a bunch saying that she was from Obi-Wan, that she was Luke's daughter, that she was a clone. Those are the most popular ones. And even I got bamboozled. I was surprised. They took me by surprise. But yeah, that was one of his predictions that was true, and of course a bunch of others, I'm sure, of behind the scenes information and some plot points. So he does have some things going for him. He's not a total crackpot, even though he looks like one. But let's talk about some logistical problems of if let's say this all just totally happens, right? Everything's true. It's all true. And Disney uncanonizes or just overtly ignores 7, 8, 9 and wants to retell stories of Luke, Leia, and Han after Episode 6. And I just don't see how that would be doable. Not on the big screen. They would have to do CGI faces, and that's problematic. Even though it's getting really, really good. Honestly, we're almost to the point where we can't tell. But at that point, with that much screen time, it would just be distracting.
Yeah.
Tarkin all over again. A little bit, Tarkin 2.0, but still Uncanny Valley somewhere in there would be happening. And I just don't see that happening. Obviously, they're not going to get the actors back for more movies. Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, that's not going to happen.
I mean, he already had Harrison Ford for 2 Star Wars movies after he swore off of them.
Right. They must have paid him off extra. He got a few extra vacation houses out of that deal.
Yeah.
So the other option is take, another route. Don't have any of the Skywalker crew in the new movies, which would be also weird because they're still a heart of, the Star Wars galaxy and politics and concerning the Force. Like that's Leia's a political force and Luke is, the Jedi Force right there. I don't know how they could totally just jump somewhere else in the galaxy and pass it off as redoing 7, 8, 9. It just doesn't make sense in my head. What do you think about that, Joe? Am I going off in the weeds?
No. Well, the thing is, too, I think the bigger problem is, in 2015, when they restarted the Star Wars comics, they're doing, the timeline where they're filling in the gaps between, 4 and 5. And then now they're doing in between 5 and 6. But they also were filling in the background for the First Order, how they came about, how Snoke came about, and Kylo. And so there's way too much material that would be gone, because if you delete the sequel trilogy, then what are all those books about? What is it all leading?
There's a lot of books that there's a lot of books that go in between there too.
Yeah, so that's another reason that I don't think it would be completely, taken out. I mean, you got the First Order, they build from the ruins of the Empire, And, that's what we're seeing in the Mandalorian. That's the ruins of the Empire right there.
Yep.
And so, it builds into the First Order. So it would just be weird. Like, and that's the thing, like they do want to focus on that time period. Basically, it's because it's the most recognizable time period, even though it's after the original trilogy. So you get a lot of this, you can have a lot of the same ideas. I mean, that's part of what makes The Mandalorian so good, is because it's touching on those things that are more familiar to people.
Now, let's be honest, though. The worst part of this, if this all happened, would be where people like you and me who know way too much about Star Wars would have to explain it all to the non-Star Wars junkies over and over. And for years, there would still be people confused. Where did Rey go? What's going on? Is Darth Vader still alive? Oh, that would get so old. So I hope it doesn't happen, because I don't want to have to explain this all the time to people.
There's another thing, too, that I heard brought up, and it's the point of, you're erasing Carrie Fisher's last movie. Her last two movies. Touchy. So that could be, seen as very disrespectful. So again, I just don't see them doing that. Not a straight up erase. That's what I'm saying. Like, It's going to be more of an ignore.
What if they did the J.J. Abrams 2009 Star Trek trick, where they just kind of make an alternate timeline, an alternate branch, where we don't have to uncanonize we don't have to uncanonize 789, but we can ignore it because now we're in a different and newer and more fresh timeline with other stories being told. Do you think that could be done?
I don't know, because that brings up what we were going to talk about. Does time travel belong in Star Wars? Because we know it's been introduced, and even when I first read that it was introduced, it made me cringe, because I'm like, no, we don't need this.
No, don't do that.
Like, we had just had Avengers Endgame when, I'm one of the few that did not want the time travel to be the answer to that movie, but it was.
Yep. And the Terminator Dark Fate movie. That's more time travel fixing.
But that one, at least you go into, you're like, the Terminator movies have always been about time travel, so that
centers around it.
That's the least of that movie's problems.
So let's talk about that. So in season 4, I think it is, of Rebels, they introduced time travel, basically a roundabout form of time travel through the Force, though, which is clever. It's not a technological time travel like we always get with sci-fi, but it's through the Force. So there's a thing called the Veil, or the Veil of the Force, which is like this dimension where you can reach different points in time and space, I guess, through the Force. And it's kind of like, it reminds me of the fifth dimension space in Interstellar, where, was it Cooper? Was it? No, who was the dad's name? I don't remember. The guy. The dad, where the dad is able to reach back in time and communicate to himself and his daughter. And he can literally, just like a file cabinet, he can browse through different spaces and times and different times, and do that. So that's kind of what you can do in the Veil, and it's in the episode called World Between Worlds. So a lot of cool stuff introduced there, a lot of interesting storytelling pieces, and really cool visuals too. I like it. But it is weird that time travel, among other sci-fi themes, have been overtly just left out, just like purposely left out of Star Wars. I was talking with someone recently about this, about Star Wars versus Star Trek. And it's interesting because Star Wars is less of a sci-fi, actually, and it's more of a fantasy, but that happens to be set in space. And what I mean by that, one aspect of that is that Star Wars leaves out a bunch of classic sci-fi story pieces, such as artificial intelligence, uprisings, sentience, independence. All those topics are very sparsely scattered around the Star Wars galaxy. The strongest and most recent example you can see in Solo, where Lando's droid is, like a rights activist for droid rights, And when that happened, I was like, whoa, this is finally they're addressing this situation where there's droids all throughout the galaxy. We never see any uprisings. We don't even know how sentient they are. So that was interesting. Another thing that doesn't come up is nanobots and teleportation and, of course, time travel. So now that we have this in the Star Wars galaxy, anything's possible. You can go back and fix anything the fanboys don't like.
And that's the thing, that's what I've heard a lot of discussion about is like, we saw it with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie and, the oldest example I heard, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you, concerning the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, have you ever heard of the Richard Donner cut of Part 2?
No.
So basically, Richard Donner was fired before he could finish Part 2, and so much of it was filmed that it's like its own movie. And so in the 2000s, they let him finish it, and it was decent, but it was one of those. It's like he didn't finish the whole movie, so he could only put together so much. So it kind of gave you an idea of what could be, But that point is that was one of the earlier examples of like people were petitioning Warner Brothers to release that, and they finally did. And now we see this coming year with the Snyder Cut with Justice League, So then we get to see if that's successful. Well, then everybody who petitioned for that, it's kind of like, as fans, like those are notches in our belt, I guess you could say, because it's like, okay, we got this done and we got this done. So then it's like, so every time we disagree with something, are they just going to fix it? Because I know you guys did the novel for Rise of Skywalker. Between that and the novel, there were some things added that could be argued were they added because of all the backlash. The whole thing with they finally established that yes, Palpatine was a clone, but they kind of glazed over it in the movie, didn't really establish it. But in the book, he is. And
I do agree. I totally agree. I feel like a lot of those little additions, even the thing about the saber, the double saber that never happened, like all those little things, I do feel like are fan service canon expansions, which I did like. But at the same time, you kind of wonder, did they really just do this because the fans were complaining for, about all this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of franchises are employing time travel to fix and make money and expand things? Is that like the hot thing now?
Well, not necessarily time travel, because like you said, Star Trek tried it and it was successful for a short time, but apparently didn't last.
I feel like it was a big hit when they did that alternate timeline in the 2009 film by J.J. Abrams, and then now they brought it in and you did a similar alternate timeline again, and in Discovery, it's just kind of like, oh, we're really nailing on that.
Yeah, there's discussion that the next big thing, depending on if the DCEU can pull it off, would be the idea of the multiverse, which Marvel has touched on it too, especially with Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, and there's going to be the Doctor Strange movie called Multiverse of Madness. So they're starting to introduce this idea to general audiences of the multiverse, which if you're a comic fan is an old idea by this point. But that way, like for example, with the DCEU, they want to bring back Michael Keaton as Batman. And if they do that, they essentially say all the movies we've made before, oh, by the way, they're canon, it's like, and so some people have said, well, can Star Wars do that? Can basically have a Star Wars multiverse with this whole Veil of the Force thing?
Interesting.
And again, I just don't know. I mean, it's an easy way out. It kind of becomes like the new time travel. It's not that we're time traveling, it's we're just going to different dimensions. And since it's a multiverse,
alternate takes, we can, different history, different characters, like the New 52 thing, like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, as far as a company standpoint and marketing and all that, as long as you don't confuse the heck out of everybody,
which will happen.
They're just like, which Joker do you like? The one Joker movie that doesn't fit anywhere. It's just Joaquin Phoenix having fun, with the Joker part. So
let's talk about some possibilities as to how they could undo or start a new timeline within the galaxy. So one thing that I had read was that the mirror room where Rey meets Dark Rey on the remnants of Death Star 2, that room is actually could have been used as a portal room for the Veil, where Palpatine, who knows about the Veil, according in Rebels, we see him like actively using it, going through it. So he knows about the Veil and time travel. He could be using the Veil in his mirror room to help see the future, see the past, manipulate things. Who knows what he did if he had access to that, and that he could have used that to, basically transfer or teleport himself to Exegol. So the one theory was saying that a character, we don't know if it could be, Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka, or Ezra comes back, or someone in the future post episode 9 discovers some way or place to use the veil, they could go back in time and they could ensure that Palpatine either truly dies, ensure that he doesn't have access to the veil, or anything like that. And that would basically start a new timeline where Rey would never have happened, that Kylo would never have happened, or maybe he was born, but he would never have fallen, and he wouldn't have been manipulated to the dark side. Snoke would have never happened. All those things. So that's one thing that I had read. Had you come across any theories as to like what could actually happen in the story to make it happen?
No, like I was saying, a lot of what I've researched and stuff is more that they're just gonna want to move away from that time period. Like they're gonna stay in the post Jedi time period as long as they can without getting too close to the sequel trilogy.
And they got 30 years. That's a lot of history right there.
Yeah, no, they do. I mean, I feel like there's 3 movies missing between 6 and 7. Another trilogy should have happened, honestly.
We could do episode 6.3, 6.6, and 6.9.
Yeah. But after that, they may go forward, or they could also go back. That was the thing. People were expecting a Knights of the Old Republic movie coming next, and we could have gotten it with the Game of Thrones writers before they, backed out, and they probably backed out because they saw the backlash. They'd already been attacked for Game of Thrones, so they're like, "Oh, we're not going to the Star Wars camp and having tomatoes thrown at us over there too." So they're like, Netflix already gave us a good deal anyway. We'll just go there. So. But because they have those books that are happening in what they call the High Republic, which is kind of like I can't remember the time frame. Was it like 400 years before?
It's 200 years before episode 1.
Or 200, okay. Yeah, but it's like supposed to be at a time when the Jedi were at their peak and stuff like that. So they've already gone, somewhat to the past, but not as far as some people wanted them to.
Yeah, they're saying safe. It's such a wimpy. It's like you either do the Old Republic or you don't. They're like, we'll get halfway there. We'll get a little bit in the past.
I just don't think once the Game of Thrones guys left, I don't think they had anybody that they trusted with it. So that's why they went this route. So,
well, let's talk about this drama and stuff about Kathleen Kennedy being fired, and there's kind of like the civil war within Lucasfilm, if you want to be real dramatic. And I'll admit, this is one area where I'm more ignorant of the interior issues of her and others. So let's talk about that. What do we know about Kathleen Kennedy and all this stuff? Well, how does she fit into all this?
Well, let me preface this by saying, obviously, none of the people who report on this stuff, unless they're Doomcock's special hidden, agents or whatever.
Secret spies.
We obviously don't know the true details of what really goes on behind the closed doors at Lucasfilm,
Yeah.
But as outsiders looking in, it appears that Lucasfilm has 2 camps. And there's a camp that's for Kathleen Kennedy, there's a camp that's against. Now, for those of you who don't know, she's the one that George Lucas himself, instilled in Lucasfilm, so that way when it was sold, she would kind of be like his not necessarily a spokesperson, but kind of carry the torch for him, to continue his vision. But she obviously showed that she had her own vision, but it didn't really come.
Boy, did she.
Yeah, it really didn't come to pass until The Last Jedi. And so that, in essence, is just causing division in Lucasfilm. And so, the camp that has Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, they're the ones doing The Mandalorian, and that's why that show's doing so well, because those guys are Star Wars fans and they understand the universe. And the rumor is that, like, I guess her contract was quietly extended like a year or 2 ago. Like, there was no official announcement. It just was leaked that her contract was renewed, but I believe it's up next year. And the rumor is that she's not going to be renewed. So that's the gist of it. That's the gist of it without, trying to talk about things that we can't confirm,
We can't know, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are not happy with the direction that she took Lucasfilm and the sequels. So, and people like Doomcock see the connection. They're like, well, when she's out, then we can redo it, and I don't know.
Yeah. And
That's
I mean,
all hearsay.
When I hear discussion, she's the one that they say took Lord and Miller off the Solo movie because they didn't agree. And apparently she did the same thing to Rogue One, but I think she lucked out on that one that it still came out really good. But obviously Solo did not. So between Last Jedi, it did well financially, but they wanted it to do as well as Force Awakens did, and it didn't. So then and then Solo was the first Star Wars movie in history to lose money.
I like Solo. I feel like the movie was good, but I think there was a lot of marketing, money spending decisions that were really bad.
Yeah,
that made it loose. That's my thing. I know some people didn't like the movie, but
yeah. And the thing is, a lot of it could be, and this is something that I think most people can agree, is that when you have producers, executive producers, I have a friend in the video game industry that can attest to this. It's like the person who has control of the money is going to have the say so, and whether or not that's a good thing when it comes to a creative project that they may or may not have their heart in. That's the kind of things that hurts. Like he said, it hurts movies, it hurts video games that he's worked on, things like that. And that's just a reality, unfortunately. So take that for what you will, where it comes to her or any other producer that may have messed up a movie you were really looking forward to,
Yeah. Yeah, money, the love of money is the root of all evil, and it ruins so many great stories and franchises.
It does. It really does.
Well, that about sums up all we can, with a good conscience talk about.
Yeah.
There's so much, I don't really like getting very deep into speculation, or especially when it comes to people, like people's intentions and good or bad decisions that we don't have any evidence for. I really don't like that kind of rumor stuff when it's about people. But we're really curious, what's going to happen with the future Star Wars. Are they going to just quietly ignore 7, 8, 9? Are they going to, move forwards and just do like alternate media, like, comics and books, because they can't get the actors back? We will see. And I'm very anxious to find out what's next. Now, really what's next is a High Republic is coming up it got pushed back from August to January. Is when the first book comes out. There's 5 total publications. I think there's like 2 novels, one young adult novel, and like 2 comics, something like that. There's like a middle grade reading, which I guess is like junior high.
Oh yeah.
So kind of like an interesting range of books. It's like adult, young adult, and kids. They're just really, bombarding us with all age groups. So that's what's up next as far as what we can, devour from the Star Wars world. But in the movie world, I think Ryan Johnson's trilogy is off the table, right? He's not getting on.
There seems to be no solid one way or the other. I mean, it seems like it's gone, just like the Game of Thrones guys, but who knows?
Well, more recently than Ryan Johnson's thing, which is actually probably like a year or 2 old news. I saw that Taika Waititi got like officially announced that he was going to get a Star Wars movie.
Oh, I forgot about that. See, so we do have some good news for the future.
Yeah. We like Taika Waititi, and there's also a Star Wars show of some unannounced detail that is all women led, like girl power Star Wars show. Very curious about what's the deal with that is, what's going to be going on with that. Yeah. We don't have any details yet. So,
and then Kevin Feige somehow is going to be involved with Star Wars, not to the extent he is with Marvel, but I remember that being announced a while back too. So,
yeah. And the Obi-Wan show seems to be bouncing around.
Yeah, I think they just want. I mean, it could be some of the things we talked about tonight behind the scenes, but obviously, regardless, I think they just want to get it right, especially to see how well the Mandalorian was received. So just remember, it was the child that saved us all, that saved Star Wars.
The child. The child has better reviews and more popularity than Rey or Kylo or any of those characters. Everyone loves a child.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. We would love to get some feedback from all of you out there as to what you think will happen, could happen, should happen, and what your take is on all these wild rumors and hearsay things. You can let us know by commenting on the posts for this episode on our social media accounts. You can private message us, or you can email us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Well, thanks for listening, and may the force be with you. Have a great week. If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, dun dun dun. So intense.